Welcome, Browns Nation, to the final episode of the regular season of In the Dawg Pound Poundcast, raw and unfiltered, found everywhere where you find your favorite Poundcast, we like to say, with Mike Tomczak, Hanford Dixon, Frank Stams, Leroy Horde, and Eric Metcalf. Hopefully we'll be joined by a special guest soon to talk more Browns football. But Eric, perfect lead-in. We were just talking before the tape was rolling. What's going on? What's going on, Eric?
Well, you know, we got rid of Joe Woods, and we knew that was coming, whether he deserved it or not. We knew it was coming. Right. We knew it was going to be the scapegoat. In my opinion, I feel like some other folks should be gone also. But, you know, I think what I need to get into is when we got rid of Joe Woods is listening to John Johnson's comments about what does he want in a new coordinator. And he was talking about how he needs somebody that can make them play and somebody they're willing to run through a wall for and things like that. And I'm thinking, what the hell is wrong with these guys? I don't think any of us needed somebody to make us go out there and play. I think we have enough pride in our ability and just going out there and our teammates and buddies to go out there that we wanted to be the best player on the field. Regardless of wins or losses, we want to prove that we were the best player on the field. And I just don't like that these guys don't feel this way. And so by them not feeling this way, what is the coach going to do that's going to change that mindset?
But Matt, but it goes to, we've had this conversation a lot. The way we felt accountable to each other, we wouldn't allow either ourselves or somebody else to go out there and not hold their own as far as what their responsibilities were or how they were or the mentality that they had to play with. And so for us, when we played with the Browns, the defense set the tone, right? And then we would run the ball and be aggressive offensively, but that tone was set as far as how we were going to play, the mentality we were going to play with. And anytime anybody didn't play that way, and I tell you what, kudos to Bill, because Bill would put the onus on us as far as how we played. He didn't feel like he had to go in there and have this big rah-rah speech about what we needed to do. In fact, every damn meet we had was negative. Right? He showed, instead of getting hyped up for a game, he'd show all the film of what we did screwing up the last time we played.
Yeah.
And we would take it on. We would take it on.
I was happy to be on the film. I was happy to be on the film. Yeah.
You remember when Mark Rippon took the tape out and threw it? He showed so many bad plays. Mark Rippon got up, ejected the tape, threw it up against the wall in the meeting.
And see, and, you know, and I want to say, and I want people not to think that we think everything we did was perfect, because I know I dropped some balls. I know I fumbled. I know I blew some routes. I know I ran the wrong play from time to time. But that didn't stop me from thinking I was the best dude on the field, even if I was.
Right. Hanford, I know you want to say something. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just getting ready to say, I think it's a damn shame that they made Joe Woods the scapegoat. I mean, I just, sure, Joe Woods didn't do, there were some things that he could have done better, but I don't think he's the only one that they should have got let go on this damn team. And for them to just get rid of him, I just thought was just bullshit. And first of all, what they need to do, they need to make Stefanski get rid of this damn play caller. They need to bring in an offense coordinator. He, like we said earlier, he can change the plays if you want to. If you want to do that, hire somebody. If you want to override him doing a play, override it. You still can script your 10 or 15 plays in the beginning of a ball game. I think they should take a long look at the special teams coach. I mean, I think that's another position. And you look at it, man, there's some other shit. Who's coaching the defensive line, or is the defensive line coaching them? I mean, because, we all, including myself, we gave Clowney, he caught a lot of heat for what he said and what he did and the way he went about it. which I think there was a better way he could have done the shit. But the guy, he had a legitimate grade, because one thing you have to do, man, right? You might have your favorite players, but you treat all your goddamn players the same. My understanding is Myles Garrett, they tried to say he was sick, but my understanding is it was you say he just didn't show up for 2 damn days. I mean, how you gonna not show up for 2 days? Don't call nobody, and then what you're gonna do is they just gonna suspend you. You're just gonna miss one play. Get the hell out of here, man.
You do that, you don't want to play for the team that you're playing for anymore. You want to be gone.
Yeah, what kind of message is that sending?
Right.
He wants to be out. That's the message.
Yeah, he wants to go somewhere else.
Out.
Right.
Well, one of the things that we sitting here talking about Joe Wood and whatever, but we came on here every week, and our conversations were more about the decisions made on offense as far as in-game decisions. It wasn't about the defense. We talked about the
two
players.
Big games, though. Two big games.
We talked about the players and what they were doing defensively, but we talked about schematics and decisions on offense. So if you're going to go to Joe Woods and say, hey, he need to get these guys fired up, well, isn't that what the damn head coach is for?
Yeah.
Well, I want to say to Eric opened up with, what's going on. I don't know about you guys, but I know this, and I know you all feel the same way. When I got into the NFL, I mean, it's a man's game.
Yeah.
What Clowney did and what's going on with Garrett and what's going on with this in the defensive backfield, it just shows the immaturity of this team. Yeah. You were expected, the guys that I played with, some of the older veterans, you were expected to do your job, and there weren't any excuses. And if you opened your mouth, you were accountable to your teammates like that. These guys, this team lacks a serious amount of immaturity, and a bad parent has let this go on. And that's why, Mike, we were talking about in our text earlier today, it's not all Stefanski's fault. You know what? It's not all his fault, but he's the guy responsible for all of this. And he was the one that let this degrade to where it is over a period of 3 years. And my question in the press conference would have been, and hopefully, and they're working on us getting credentialed for next year to go in and ask these questions is, why is this team not better today than it was 3 years ago? Now, granted, the quarterback issue is a problem, but it's still overall, I don't think, as good as a team as it was 3 years ago. And the last thing I'm going to say, let you guys talk on Joe Woods. I said to my wife watching the game, when that seam route for I think it was Pittsburgh's first touchdown went unaddressed, there was nobody within 10 yards of that seam route on that pass. How do you let that happen in week 17?
You mean when John Johnson ran down thinking he was going to do somebody else's job, and the guy just kept running up the seam? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's top laughing because he knows that's he knows that's what's happening. And the problem is, in the famous words of Mike Leach, either you coach that shit or you allow that shit.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right.
Well said.
Right?
Well said.
And that's what he said. And like going back to Frank's parent statement, what is he doing as a leader, as a coach? He's not leading these guys. These guys don't believe in what we're doing. How are we going
the coaches, Eric? Go back to the coaching. Maybe it's a bad hire. My beef, throughout the years, I became a Browns fan was, the management. It starts from the top man down, right?
It does, but let me ask you these questions. I think about these things, and I think about, okay, when you're really trying to win a game, you do whatever it takes to win a game, right?
Correct.
And you use your best players to do that. But all of a sudden, we throwing the ball every play, and we know who our best players are on offense.
Right.
That doesn't seem like you trying to win to me.
One of the things that struck me as crazy, and we could all attest to this. When Bill was the coach, he could walk up and down the warm-up line and tell a player something about the guy he was facing, whether it was offense, defense, special teams, he would just walk up and down and say, hey, that 3 technique, he ain't nothing to be trifled with. Or, hey, you know when you got that outside guy on this play. And so he had his hand on everything. And we had Nick Saban on the staff. But Belichick could walk around that defense and he had the ear of everybody, right? I think that's what a coach is. A head coach is somebody who has his fingerprint on the whole team while allowing his coaches to do their job.
Well, to my point, when you hire people not knowing their pedigree, you do it out of necessity. Is it Bill Callahan? Is he a holdover? Was he a holder from the previous?
No, they had the big fat offensive line coach.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, but
Who was that?
You know,
John Tierlink.
Yeah, no.
Remember
they was on Hard Knocks. He said stretching. He stretched when they stormed the course of Normandy.
Hey Frank, you went back with that John Terry.
How about he was a piece of work, Tierlink.
Yeah, your guys' point.
Who I was talking about, and I still always go back. They call this dude Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Dawg.
The players.
Hey, Dawg, you're exactly right. You know who a coach is? Mike Tomlin. You see Mike Tomlin on that sideline running down. You know who the coach is? What's the guy in Detroit Lions? What's his name?
Hey, look,
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell.
I'm glad you brought him because I wanted to say this about him the other day.
Why is Dan Campbell's nose so red?
Just listen to this. But Frank, the best thing he said the other night, right before the game, that they asked him
about the playoffs.
I feel knowing that you're not going to the playoffs. He said, "We're not going, but they ain't going either."
Oh yeah, it was great.
Right, and they beat that team. And Green Bay, as you guys know, had everything in the world to play for, and Campbell and those guys beat their ass in Green Bay.
But you know what? It's an attitude.
Yeah,
right.
It's an attitude.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about Mike Tomlin, right? He ain't never had a losing record, but guess what? The players take pride in that also.
That's right.
The players take pride in that also. When you look at, you as a coach, right? As a coach, you set the tone for how things are gonna be done. And if you don't set that tone, guess what you got? You got what we got last.
Hey, all right.
Figured out my technical inability here.
Browns Nation, you're in the Dawg Pound with Hanford Top Dog Dixon, Leroy Hort, Mike Tomczak, Frank Stams, myself, Eric Metcalf, and our special guest, Mr. Bernie Kosar.
The man.
Hey, do we need a teleprompt for that?
No, I'm good at this. I got it.
It's week 19, Bernie, week 19. We're glad you're here. Number 19, Bernie Kosar's in the house. And Eric got us all the way through that read. No teleprompter. He's professional.
Well, Matt, you did a good job. I thank Darla for helping me use her iPad to get me on screen right here. I haven't changed my name since last weekend.
Hey, BK, we were just talking before you joined in about where do we go from here? What does it look like to you?
Well, it was, you and me have talked a lot on the air and off the air during the course of the year about what we're doing offensively, where we're going offensively and that. And there was so much anticipation and excitement of Deshaun coming back and missing those first 11 games and kind of thinking about when Deshaun came back that we're going to kick right into gear and pick up in that third quarter, fourth quarter of the season and be in sync and stuff. And you actually saw that we really didn't and stuff. And Jacoby Brissett actually played significantly better, I think, than most people thought through the course of the year. Yet when Deshaun came, we really weren't in playoff aspirations or in playoff positions. So I think one of the things that's but again, I want to be positive with the new year starting. This past season just finishing. I think all of us on this call right here, we absolutely remember back when we played and we were sick if we weren't in the playoffs and stuff. But I actually think where we go from here with the Browns is we've been so fixated on the quarterback issue, and that's absolutely imperative in all of these NFL teams, ours included. But boy, what I really think the last part of the season showed is that we need depth and we need playmakers at other positions more so than as much, if not more so than the quarterback position right now.
Well, Burn, knowing this and knowing the strength of this team is running the football, are you shocked that it almost seemed like they gave the other team a break by abandoning the run?
Well, Leroy, I think the Sunday's past game against the Steelers actually was a microcosm of the season. And when the games mattered, and the playoffs were at stake, and we were trying to win the division and get to the big dance, I absolutely was 100% on board with the Nick Chubb train and running the ball more, and especially in those 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, and making the defense submit to your will offensively with that Bill Callahan offense and Nick Chubb running. I don't do well. We all kind of joke about our dislike for our division rivals and how we absolutely want to beat them at all cost. But when the playoffs aren't at stake, there are different things that kind of maybe go into it at times. And maybe I'm trying to be a coach apologist here, but Nick Chubb only running the ball 6 times in the first half against the Steelers, basically averaging almost 6.5, 7 yards a carry, getting into like mid 40 yards carrying and stuff. Absolutely. You want to do that more. I wonder if in the last game, there was talk in the last 2 or 3 games, hey, should we really practice with Deshaun? Should we get him used to seeing what he does best? Should we spread it out and throw the ball a little more to get Deshaun back acclimated to throwing for next year and to see what he does? I'm not sure I was as big a favor of doing stuff like that, but I wonder if in the last game we were trying to save Nick Chubb, and because that was a game that if you had to win that game, you want to run Nick Chubb 25 times, averaging almost 7 yards a carry on that. I just wonder if that was something to, and then probably making an excuse for the team, but it was that they wanted to see Deshaun throw more and save Nick Chubb's health because he got his 1,500 yards. The game really didn't matter in the scheme of the playoffs and stuff. And was there a little bit of thank you, Nick? You had a fantastic year. And could this year have been any worse if a Nick Chubb gets hurt in the 3rd or 4th quarter of that last Steeler game? So maybe I'm just trying to look at the nice part of it.
Well, you are, and I would tell you,
Thanks, Tom.
You know why?
100%.
Because even if we and I understand that's why I kept saying Deshaun doing that whole talk and all. But even when we was trying to win games, we wasn't sticking to the run. I mean, we're running a little bit. You got Nick Chubb, just like you said, 6, 7, 8 yards a pop, and we throwing the ball on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2.
Well, for a guy who liked to sometimes throw the ball too much, that was sometimes a little bit of rhetoric. And when it's 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, there was no doubt you wanted to show your toughness and run the ball at him like that. And actually, and for our listeners out there and for all of us on there, that was really what I was thinking for the last game and the Steelers, because I'm, again, not wanting to pile on or just be agreeable with your top dog. But as we were doing the podcast, all of us talking through the course of the year, I think all of us would have wanted to run the ball more. Yeah. Those crucial situations early in the middle part of the season when these games really mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think, and I think a lot of people think when we're talking about him running the ball more, we think he has to run it 35 times. But we're not talking that. We're talking about the situations in which he runs it, the situations in which they put him in to give him opportunities to break, like he did in the year they went to the playoffs. And I think. And I get you saying that they might be trying to work on Deshaun and getting him back to throwing like he was when he was in Houston, but I'm going to say this. His receivers in Houston had separation. They were schemed open. Those dudes were not. They didn't have DBs just draping all over them the whole game. So it was a little easier.
Matt, and I'm not just trying to be gratuitous and agreeing with you here, but when you asked where do we go from here with the Browns and what do you think? And again, not trying to just cover my backside as an old quarterback, but that's absolutely with the minimal draft picks, without the first round pick, with so many needs on our team. Our team has way more needs than our fans and our people really think. And Matt, that's down the list of what you're talking about for as a quarterback. That's absolutely damn on point with the lack of separation and the really inability to have guys really wide open down the field like he had in Houston. And, he had some massive weapons, and that spread game in Houston, that is a different way of attacking than we are in Cleveland.
Right. No doubt about it. And how about Bernie? Were you in favor of that Denny's takeout order that Stefanski always had? He had a lot of. He had the entrees.
Well, you know what, Cheesack. Okay, I got the joke. I love it. And I actually had something that me and Top Dog were talking about the other day. Yeah. And Mike, as your old QB and stuff, one of the things that, when me and you played together and then through your career, how you handle play calling. So much has been brought up about Coach Stefanski and should he keep calling plays and stuff. And the Denny's menu there led me into the levity and thinking about that. But one of the things I was thinking about, and you're the old school guy, you understand offenses. You knew sometimes, most of the time, more so than the coaches, what you wanted to do player-wise against defenses and stuff. And myself too, I had that reputation of calling my plays and things of that nature. And I love that responsibility. But one of the things I really did in my best offenses, when I had the flexibility to call my own plays, like we're talking about with Coach Stefanski here.
Hey, let's not forget he called them even when he did not have the flexibility. He called him play. Don't put that in there also. Don't play. Don't leave that part
out. Y'all knew when it was coming too, because we get over in the huddle and Bernie would take a knee and he'd just start drawing some stuff up.
But the best one was when it'd be like a TV timeout and they'd be yelling at BK and he'd be like, "Don't look over there.
Don't look over there.
I hear him. Don't look over there."
Hey, but that actually was my point with it, T-Zac. When coaches are calling plays, some of the coaches when I had the best success with, Lindy Infante, Mark Trestman, Gary Danielson, player coach to me. Their plays, they called the plays, but it was a suggestion. And we had spent so much time together that they trusted me. They knew that I had the flexibility to take their suggestion and change it. Like if I'm the head coach and if I wasn't put myself in that position, and I love, you guys, if anybody know how much I love and want to call plays and really need to for my success. But I think if I was the head coach and I was in that spot, I actually want my coordinator, quarterback coach to call the plays. We're all hooked up via the headsets. So you're going to hear it. It gives you the right to change it. It gives you a couple seconds to think about it. And then you just give it to the quarterback. So it's still you're in charge. You're still ultimately accountable for it. You still really are calling plays. But I get to work with my coaches and my guys, and they could maybe come up with some suggestions. And I'd like to take all the credit for calling great plays, but absolutely, you guys around me gave me suggestions, players, coaches, and that when you get that collaborative stuff and you trust somebody, you get the best play possible.
Let's get a quick idea in here. You're listening to In the Dawg Pound. You're listening to In the Dawg Pound. Hold on now, Eric, you got me off my game. You're listening to In the Dawg Pound, raw and unfiltered, found everywhere where you find your favorite podcast. Our special guest tonight, Bernie Kosar, is in with Hanford Dixon, myself, Frank Stamps, Mike Tomczak, Eric Metcalf, and Leroy Hort. Bernie, my favorite quote, and it goes down in quotes of all times when I just joined the Browns, and we go to Indianapolis, and it was a terrible outing for us. And I think Indianapolis had got to you a number of times. I think it might have been an NFL record that day. And the next day,
so the CTE is working a little bit. So Deshaun Watson got sacked 7 times in Pittsburgh. I am a little forgetful, but that was 11 times in
11
Indianapolis.
times. But the best quote I read in the paper the next morning is, "I'm suffering from Bill Belichick's growing pains as an offensive coordinator," and I freaking just love that.
Hey,
I just love that.
But do you remember the best thing of that day? And even though it wasn't for us, Lange scored a touchdown and threw the ball at our bench.
He probably got fined. He probably got fined for that.
Hey, what was the?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, in that year, and that year too, and I love all of us on this call here today.
Yeah.
But Lange, I think, had over like 100 catches, and so did Webb in Houston that year. And I'm trying to create wide receivers out of my best favorite running backs there, Leroy Horton and Eric. Okay? I'm getting my ass kicked. Okay?
Hey,
how about that, Bernie? Especially when it's late in the year. When it's late in the year, they need 5 more catches to get that incentive money. And you're still getting whacked.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, I need 1 more catch for 50,000, man. Go ahead, whack.
Hey,
That's where the eye contact really came in good.
Oh yeah. Hey, you just look over like this.
Hey, Bernie, we talked a little bit about, I think this team has a little bit of immaturity about them. You see the antics that go on the field and stuff you read in the paper. And then, what was the when you got to the Browns and your first 5 years, what was that Browns locker room like?
Wow. You know what? Me and Matt were joking about his first training camp and stuff. And it's actually the Demir Hamlin, some of the stuff that happened with me personally in the last week, some of the injuries and stuff that have been going on, the treatments and stuff, really has had me really reflect back on the intensity that I put into football and stuff. And when I was that age back then, that team, Top Dog, was one of the leaders, the mentor of the team. And that was a serious kick-ass locker room. There wasn't a lot of levity. It was serious. It was physical. There was 2-a-days with Marty Schottenheimer and stuff. And he was really trying to break us down and establish his own culture in 1985, his first full year as a head coach. So it was really a physical, massive aggressiveness to where, and we were playing five preseason games at a time, playing in basically all the games. And I'm not proud of this, but I was one of those guys that loved 3-a-days, loved hitting all the time.
Play quarterback.
Quarterback, I know.
You didn't hit.
Done. But learning from Coach Snellenberger and Jimmy Johnson down at University of Miami, and that Don Shula, that old school sickness of almost a dictatorship, a war type environment. And I don't want to throw those words around, war and the injury type stuff that we really kind of actually took pride in and stuff. But that type stuff back then, it was serious business. That type of situation where some of the things that are coming out now with Jadeveon Clowney and early in the season, not wanting to play first and second down against the Baltimore Ravens, but I'll come in and I'll play on third down. I had heard some stuff too, where there was maybe some guys that maybe a month or 5 weeks ago started counting down days towards the end of the season. We all have been around some people and some teams that tashed it in early. Why I bring that up is because those teams that you talked about the first 5 years of the league, hell would freeze over. That would never be a consideration. And let alone would anybody have the stones to mention something like that without getting killed?
That's right.
Okay, so it was probably more serious than it should have been. It absolutely. I apologize to all of you individually and collectively here that I do think it took years off our lives and our careers. by the physicalness that we had to go through in some of those practices. And I'd like to just blame the coaches, but you're right. I was a quarterback and I was to blame for some of those and wanting to practice like that, because I believed you had to practice like you're going to play. And to a degree, that's somewhat true for me, but I don't think all people needed that. But our teams needed that, and that bonded us together. We had good success. But again, I apologize for shortening your careers and shortening our lives.
Well, how about the guys before?
So obsessive.
With that in mind,
the guys before us,
let me tell you my first play in Cleveland at practice, because everybody paid attention to detail and everybody was all in and it was physical. So, my rookie year, I'm first round pick. I'm holding it, of course. I finally come in with 1 week to go before the season, and they put me out there, and we go, BK will remember this, 2 flip wide. That's running back splitting out. And so whatever they called, it was a play I knew.
It was 2 flip wide. Yeah, like a 34 or something.
And BK being BK, audible. I don't know what the hell is going on. So I just jogged up the field a little bit. Ball hit me in the head. I turned around and looked at him. He just laughing. I was thinking, this fucker. He's trying to make me look bad.
I got to say this. I've said this to you, Matt, personally and stuff. And I don't need to say it for you guys on the air, but I will say it for everybody out there listening and stuff, that I apologize for that. I absolutely thought I was wrong. But when Coach Snellenberger, Howard Snellenberger, Jimmy Johnson, and this is not right for you young kids out there. This is not correct. But the old days of hazing, the old days of making rookies earn their way onto the field, making rookies earn their way into the huddle, making rookies earn their way into good plays. Even if it's your mother and your father out there, the rule was from the old school coaches, even if you love the guy, you got to bust their balls.
That's right.
You got to come down hard on them. You got to put them in their place. I was put in my place by some older guys like that, whether it's college and the pros. Didn't exactly like it, but there's a hierarchy that kind of goes within the NFL.
That's right.
That to fit in, and people, you guys may find this hard to believe, but I don't really want to be a prick at times. I don't really enjoy yelling and being an asshole. Okay. But from a leadership standpoint, and for sometimes in the heat of battle and what you've got to do in the fourth quarter, and sometimes like I don't feel good if I could blame the coach or it's someone else's fault. I mean, I'm looking at this screen here. I could go to war with you guys. I mean, there's stuff on my back. You guys know. I mean, we could do anything together, and I believe we'd be successful when you develop that type of camaraderie and spirit and bond. I mean, we want to look good individually, but man, I wouldn't want to be bad and be the reason why you guys aren't successful. And we really had that love and respect for each other to do our best.
And that's why I brought that up. That's why I brought that up, because it's moments like that, because I was late to the party as a rookie, but it was moments like that was like, I got to get my shit together so I can be ready when this regular season starts. So it made me go study this playbook. So I knew, because I wanted to play. I didn't get down.
And I appreciate you saying that, because as many times as we've talked, we hadn't really said that. And that really was the impetus for it. It's really so that the 53 guys that were in Pittsburgh for the Browns on this past Sunday, that they all know that it's, hey, I'd rather fight with you here on screen or at practice field with 100 people around than with 85,000 people in one of my 16 or one of my 17 football games that really matter in the course of the year. So, sometimes whether it's the team this offseason, these current guys, I know it's harder to practice and have do the things that we did, but it's better to have tough, hard, come to Jesus moments off the field before you get to Sunday, so that when you get to Sunday at 1 o'clock, you're ready to deal with this. And at times, I'm not sure we've been tough enough to be ready to deal with stuff. At 10 minutes to 4 in the fourth quarter, when the game's at the end of the line.
Right.
Well, Bernie, you
And
said
it's that
something
look,
to me.
it's that look too. It's a look.
Yeah.
The look. I look at you. I need you right now. You know that look you have in the last drive or
I
the
don't
critical
think
third
anybody
down
on this
situation.
team,
Great point.
There's only a handful of guys that you can go on this team right now and say those words, and you know you're gonna get the right response. And I think
Chubb.
that's the problem right there, is that you have so many guys that aren't thinking about their responsibility to one another, and they're thinking about getting theirs without realizing if you succeed,
Everybody.
we all succeed.
That everybody.
If the man next to me, if I help the man next to me succeed, we all succeed. Guess what? If the running back makes 2 yards and make it into 7 yards, the offensive line looks great, right? And they turn around and say, you know what? I didn't do as well as I could on that play, and you still bailed me out. I got you next time.
We
You
got
know,
each other's back. Yeah, you're right. We
Right.
got each other's back.
Right.
Hey, And
Well,
I'm digressing a little bit or off tangent here with
we
that
like
statement,
that.
which I love, but I'm trying to think here, and I'm looking at this group here, and people have been nice enough to say sometimes that I'm intelligent. Mike Tomczak, I know how intelligent you are. Supposedly we're quarterbacks and we're supposed to be smart. How come we're the two idiots on the screen here with the wrong names? I'm Darlarini and you're Zoom user.
I know.
User, Mr. User. Geez,
Mike made
you're in great shape. You're going to be coming to my rehab later?
yeah.
It's raw
Well, Mike-
and unfiltered, man. Go ahead,
Hey,
Frank.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, he talks about your intelligence all the time. I want to talk about what a good dude you are. And this is to the larger point that you're making, and then Leroy just made too, is you once told me, and I never forget this, you said, like people attract.
Mhm.
And I think and that goes to chemistry. And I
Mhm.
think the Browns, when, Leroy's talking about, there's not 5 guys on there that can agree about something, that goes to the chemistry of the team. What you're talking about, Mike Tomczak, in the fourth quarter. We're all in this together. That goes to chemistry. Bernie's been talking about it ever since he got on. And, I think they lack a little chemistry. And just to add to the chemistry that I think Bernie and I shared, and you guys don't know this, but this is absolutely.
Frank, I'm sure
this-
you're going to tell us, Frank.
This is absolutely. Listen, this is absolutely.
stuff, Frank, because I know some nasty stuff about you.
Right.
Listen, I'm a new man now, but I can go back. I can go back into the past, into the storytelling. Let me tell you what a good dude. When I first got to the Browns, if Bernie, took me under his wing, he would take the offensive line out to dinner. And he'd take the one time that he so graciously invited me. He was going to Johnny's there on Fulton, and I joined.
We all
Okay.
win.
Well, as a linebacker on the other side of the ball, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. What a treat. And then I find out later on, not only did, he's a good dude, but we had a lot in common because, believe it or not, true story, we got to talking. He and I were dating the same girl 2,000 miles apart. Bernie, you tell him that's the truth. She would leave LA and she would say, "Oh, I got to go to South Florida for a little bit," and go down there in the off season. And then when I got to Cleveland, we start talking about the same. Bernie, that's the truth, isn't it?
Hey, she went to South Florida. She went to South Florida because BK called better plays.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave her name out of it, but
what's funny?
Like mine, Frank. Like mine.
What's funny about all the conversations we have is we had leaders on our team, and we all had leaders that could go to a coach and say, "I can't play with that guy. He don't know what the hell he's doing." Right? And that coach would listen, and he would either go to that player and say, "Look, you got to earn the respect of the guys you're playing with, or I can't do nothing about that." And I think what we lack, and this is in a lot of football, not just with the Browns, is that you can't approach somebody like no matter how much we all made, once you got on that field, you were one of 11.
Yeah.
And you had a responsibility to the other 10 guys. And if you didn't, somebody would come over there and give you a little whisper in your ear or yell at you or whatever. And then you got your shit together. Now they don't right. It's like, hey man,
don't be talking to me like that, man.
Right.
I'm going my way. You know what I mean?
Listen, I got yelled at more than anybody. I ain't gonna lie.
Hey, we all love each other and we all argued. Come on.
Hey, you know what? I got yelled at more than anybody for a number of things. Never got offended. I ain't never get in somebody's face and say, don't yell at me like that. Because you know what? Sometimes you got to swallow a little humble pie and say,
that's right.
Yeah, you're right.
We checked our egos at the door.
Right. But guess what? Kevin
the
Stefanski
older
need to do
dudes
that
check
too.
the egos for us.
But the thing is,
Kevin Stefanski need to do that too, because he feels at times during the point of the game he got to have this ingenious play to win the game. When all you got to do is turn around and hand it off. That's winning football, and you got to swallow your ego and accept what winning football is on that day.
But to your point, is you didn't have any problems. You didn't have any problem with somebody checking you because you knew that no one was checking you personally. They were checking the actual problem of trying to help this football team.
Because I'm gonna tell you like this,
we're trying to make sure everybody does their job. We don't care about you personally right now.
You know who the hardest person on the team when I first got there to get their approval? K-Mac.
Damn. I was gonna guess, man.
And K-Mac was just like matter of fact. Whatever. All right, Rook. All right, Rook. And it wasn't until like midway through like the season where he even acknowledged me. And the whole story is one day I had to get that stupid breakfast for half the damn team.
We all did.
Yeah. And I came in and put all the breakfasts on the table, and they ain't have no syrup in the thing. And they say, hey, Rook, we ain't got no syrup. Mm-hmm. And I went and sat down. Rook, we ain't got no syrup. And it was like 5 minutes before meeting. Rook. So I got up.
I know how the story is.
I got up. I left. I went and got some syrup at the restaurant, brought it back, right? As soon as I walk in, Bud Carson say, $500, late again, right? And when I got to my desk, there was $500 on the desk. And it was just, it was a check. They were checking to see how committed are you to this?
Right.
And so,
Bernie, that's the syrup story.
Yeah. As the rookies and the rookie hazing, which for young people out there and new football teams, you don't need to do that as much anymore. But hey, and it reminds me,
you don't need to do it at all. You can't. No, you can't do it at all. Don't say that.
Don't do it at all. But I remember as Met was telling the audible on his first day of practice. Top Dog, I don't know if you remember, 1986, the awesome, and we love them all on here, Webster Slaughter.
Yeah.
Okay, he was drafted. Okay, we come to our first day of practice. We're at training camp. And again, it's very hierarchical. It's very structured. People have their seats. They have their spots. So we're going to have our first team meeting. And Webster comes and he sits in Ozzie Newsome's chair. Okay. And he's a rook. Look, we're all pretending to be cool at that point, but we're all deep down, we're nervous. Okay, we're nervous. We don't know what to do, but we're all trying to act like tough guys. But we're afraid. At least I was. I could see other guys were too. Yeah. So Webb, trying to establish himself. He doesn't exactly know what's going on, and I've got the offensive lineman looking at me like I'm the Antichrist. Yeah. I have to make a move on him. And inside I'm saying, wait, this is going to be my top dog brother. I'm going to be throwing stage to. There's nothing about messing with him that's in my interest to do.
Right.
But as the quarterback leader of the team, the way the teams and the way the games were kind of orchestrated and run then from a leadership standpoint. I've got all the linemen looking at me like I'm supposed to do something. I'm only in my second year in the NFL. I'm only 22 years old. I didn't play as good as I wanted to in the playoff game against the Dolphins a few months earlier. So I had a hair up my ass for wanting to start the season off the right way. So I don't want to start a fight with one of my top receivers that I need to do stuff, but everybody's looking at me, and that's the responsibility of a leader and the quarterback back then, that I had to go kind of mess with him and cause something to let him know that Ozzie Newsome is higher on the food chain.
That's right. That's right, man. That's the way it was back then.
How'd it go?
Hey guys, I gotta say something.
He was pissed at me for a good week or two.
Yeah.
And Top Dog was always trying to not cover him in bump and run because he was so quick.
Yeah.
Top Dog was trying to get little Brennan. Okay.
Go ahead, Top.
Hey guys, I was gonna say this though. Guys, you guys have to give Birdie credit, man. Look at that jacket. Well, what does he remind you of with that jacket?
It's cold out today, man.
I know it. Look at that jacket. What does it remind you of?
It looked like he getting ready to go.
Like a little pullover.
Hey,
He looked like he getting ready to go train in Russia with Rocky.
I shook down an alpaca.
Hey guys, I'm gonna give you another hint.
I'm not in South Florida with Leroy. That's for sure.
I'm gonna give you another hint. Metcalf, give him that cigar you got. What does he remind you of right now? The jacket, the cigar.
The jacket, the cigar.
Another quarterback.
Jim McMahon.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
The cigar man.
Yeah.
With that being said,
the cigar and the jacket.
Bernie, who are your top quarterbacks going into the playoffs? Who are you leaning towards either division? Is Joe Burrow one of your guys? Is Josh Allen?
Well, when we started off the podcast today talking about what do we expect for the Browns in the future. Yeah. Again, I want to be super positive, but when I look at your question, T-Zach, about who's the quarterbacks you like, damn, if you don't, I love Joe Burrow, and on his own, we love him. And then the weapons he has with the wide receivers, that's just a mess in the playoffs this year, and unfortunately a mess for our Cleveland Browns for the foreseeable future, because that team is almost, I love Joe Burrow's comment for the listeners out there. I don't know if you guys saw the other day, but they were asking him yesterday, hey, Joe, how long's your window going to be open for the Super Bowl run? And he basically says, as long as I'm the quarterback.
That's right.
And he meant it. It wasn't a smart ass answer, too. No, that was like, he meant it, and I love that. And so, watching him, watching with the Chargers, that quarterback's got special arm talent. Mike, I was curious. I'd like to ask you this. In the Jacksonville game, I was teammates with Doug Peterson, so I'm massively a fan of his. I love Dougie Fresh, what he does in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, getting him as his coach. Trevor Lawrence's athleticism, arm gifts. I wish I had 25% of that arm talent.
I thought you had all that.
But I don't want to be greedy and stuff. But man, what I'm seeing from quarterbacks, and I saw it a lot with Trevor, and maybe some with Deshaun too, with the 7 sacks the other day. I really got to work on timing with some of these quarterbacks. And Trevor was really late on some of his throws in the win in your in game against Tennessee that I noted the other day. And that's something that a lot of quarterbacks today aren't being coached to throw on time. And if you get those guys with athleticism to get on time, and I think if we could get some plays, like even with Deshaun, to get some rhythm timing in that intermediate throws, like the bang 8 and the skinny post 20 yards downfield. We need some of those type throws to just not drop back, sit, hold it, stand there, and wait till I see the receiver open. You almost have to throw guys open. And some of these younger quarterbacks with arm talent are more relying on their athleticism as opposed to their anticipation and stuff. And I think Trevor is falling into a little bit of that category. So he maybe needs a little timing help with it. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow doesn't have that issue. Joe Burrow has arm talent, and he has awesome intelligence, and he's throwing with awesome timing. So all three of those make him dangerous. You know, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's special beyond special. And then I've had a bro crush on Josh Allen and his massive abilities too. So we're looking at three really top tier quarterbacks right there, and that's if Lamar doesn't come back, and what he could possibly do with fresh legs.
And and I'm glad you brought that up, BK, because when I think about the NFL and these coaches today and these players today, it's almost like these coaches expect these guys to come into the NFL and know how to play football. Right?
Right.
They're no longer coaching him, they're coaching plays. They're not coaching the player.
And you can tell it.
That's what they're falling into. And when you talk about, say, Trevor Lawrence, what you're talking about, I think that's what a lot of these guys are falling into. They're just coaching the plays and not the actual player because they don't have their techniques down.
Well, you can see it as defensive backs because every single defensive back you see right before they go break up a ball, they always hook them with their outside arm. They always hook them knowing that they're going to call that, which is stupid. You're exactly right. They're not coaching them. They're just letting them play.
But
that's just not a theme. That's just not a theme here with maybe the Browns and stuff. Actually, I sensed that back when we were playing and stuff, and they anticipate that in high school and college, you were groomed on the details, the techniques, the foot position, the hand position. Kids, I was blessed. My high school and college coaches did that, so I was prepared coming into the pros. But a lot of kids aren't getting that, and most aren't. And now, Matt, you're spot on. Man, now we're getting here, and the techniques and details of assignments are woeful.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to tell you guys this story because you guys have never heard this story. When I first learned that I knew nothing about football was my freshman year at Texas. And they used to put every freshman football player in this football class coached by a former Longhorn who was All-American and all that. And so he was teaching us everything. And I had to cheat. I'm like, I don't know shit. But this is real. I had to cheat. I didn't know anything about football. And then when I went through that class, it made me realize that if I'm going to the NFL, I'm going to have to learn how to really play football. So it was crazy. I would watch NFL games and sit there and honestly think, how am I going to know when he audibles and what to do? And those were things I was thinking about at an early age because of that football class.
But doesn't that separate the good coaches from the great coaches? A good coach has a good system, a good play, a good, scheme and stuff like that. A great coach not only teaches that great scheme, but he teaches the techniques of everybody involved in that play. And you can say what you want about Bill Belichick. He was a pain in the ass when it came to that. But he would do that with everybody. Yeah, I don't care what position you played. He would come by and whisper a little technique in your ear. You make sure you get that right foot down. You make sure you do this. Hey, it's 1, 2, 3. And we heard the perfect example of that. Remember in the Super Bowl with Seattle? And the safety said, Bill Belichick yelled at me all week to jump that slant. The day before, jump that slant. And guess what? It paid off. We take a lot of these things for granted.
Ernie Adams. I think Ernie Adams. Yeah.
You don't stop that Ernie Adams shit.
Yeah.
But I think we take as players, as players watching football, I think these are a lot of the things that we take for granted that some coaches don't.
Right. I mean, that's why I like. So it's been well documented, talked about me and Bill's relationship, but the love and respect I have for what he's able to do with just that, and that's kind of why I like Alabama type players, because Nick Saban coaches just like that. So Nick Saban's kids are forced. They're forced to learn the details, the hand positions, the foot positions. Top Dog, they absolutely aren't hooking their guys because Nick Saban
Kirby Smart. Now Kirby
And
Smart gets the
Kirby's like
crown,
that
right?
too,
Yeah.
from that same tree, exactly. So those type kids are coming into the league, and they're versed in some of this, and that I actually think that gives them a better chance to assimilate in and be successful early.
There wasn't
I
a
took a class
day
in college. I took a class in college, Frank. It was called Football 101, and Earl Bruce coached it.
Yeah.
For the
we
first
didn't
three
have
classes.
We didn't have classes
I learned
like
a lot.
that. We didn't have classes like that at Notre Dame. We were too busy working on other classes.
That's why after my visit, I decided I'm not going here.
Well, listen, one of my, I tell you, and I hear it in my sleep sometimes, there wasn't a day on the practice field that Ernie Adams didn't walk out onto that field and Leroy Horde would make fun of him.
Right.
And, I mean, it was unreal. I mean,
Wait, you know who else I used to get? Al Groh, because Al Groh used to yell all the time, and I say, Al, you coach 3 guys. we had about 17 coaches. We had inside linebacker coach, outside linebacker coach, and they would be coaching up and yelling, and I'm like, hey man, it's 3 guys. You can whisper.
Yeah.
I know, but when you just talk about coaching and coaching positions, and I know Top Dog, I know it drives him nuts. He don't have to say it, but I know it drives him nuts. But you see cornerbacks playing press. They don't play bump and run. They play and run.
And run. Let them go. Let them go off the line of scrimmage.
They ain't put no hands on them.
No.
Top Dog and those guys used to do. And that's coach. That's disrupting the timing.
Yeah.
We just don't let them have a free run and see if we can run as fast as them. That ain't football.
Because that quarterback don't have a lot of time. If you look over there and you tied up over there, he's got to go somewhere else with that damn ball.
Right.
But they don't understand that.
The lack of attention to details, the lack of jams, whether it's catch and run on press coverage or not rerouting number 2 in the slot versus, I mean, I lust still today as an old man. I want to put Met in the slot with no jam and get him up on the safety. I mean, you're going to be up on the safety in less than a second, and that guy's going to be flat-footed and backpedaling. I mean, that's why guys are getting over the top these days.
How about Ozzie? How about Ozzie in the slot and Leroy in the backfield? Put Ozzie in the slot on the other side and put Leroy in the backfield.
And then you talk about Coach Richard Mann, who had Lang, Webb, BB, and all those guys, and all they did was work on releases against Top and Mini, against the press, the jam.
Right. The red line.
The red line. Hey,
the red line, 6 yards from the boundary.
Just think how many guys, how many balls those guys would have caught if they were playing today.
Yeah.
They could just take off running.
Okay, so my pet peeve, and I know the back shoulder fade is a nice throw and stuff, but that just means you had a shitty release.
Yeah.
Okay. If you couldn't get open. Okay. So that's a failure that you need me to bail you out with a good throw. Okay. So I got that. So exactly. We ran releases. Richard Mann, Gary Stevens, Howard Snellenberger, Tressman, Jimmy Johnson at University of Miami. We ran releases against press all the time, and that you attacked it. And if you were going to just try to catch and run with me and trail, my God, you would. I'd get your hips turned 20 different ways. You'd be tripping on your feet. That would be stealing that technique. You can't let people do that.
Tell me if you guys agree. There's a lot of receivers that if they actually had to play with true bump and run coverage, would not be playing in the NFL.
Not play. They can't play because they wouldn't.
That was drill number 1 for anybody who was going to be outside the tackle box. You had to deal with the guy across from you, right?
1-on-1 mini camp. First time at mini camp. Give me Frank. I'm on Frank. I'll give him a matchup with Frank.
Hey, I want Frank every play.
You talk about a lockdown. Wait. You talk about a lockdown corner. I was a lockdown linebacker.
Frank. I want Frank every play.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in the Dawg Pound with Frank Stans, like Leroy Horde, Hemper Dixon, myself, Eric Metcalf, and our special guest, Bernie Kosar, Raw and Unfiltered Football.
Hey, Bernie, is Kareem Hunt back with the team next year?
I like Kareem and stuff, but with the salary cap, with his diminished playing time, and I believe with the way they're kind of liking Ford and Johnson, that they're probably going to go another direction. And I think Kareem, almost like Jacoby Brissett, wants to play more, probably deserves the opportunity to play more, and will get more playing time and a chance probably to start in another place. And that's not something I'd love to see him want to come back, but I'm not sure about that.
Did you guys hear
And with that in mind, because of all that, we should have traded him and got something for him.
Yeah, especially now with looking through, and again, it's not trying to take shots and stuff, but in a successful NFL year, the teams turn over 35% and stuff to 40%. So you're going to have turnover in the team, and you're going to want to supplement that with higher draft picks and stuff. So you're right. I mean, to not get anything for him, he would have driven the amount of assets like Christian McCaffrey did from the Carolina to the San Francisco trade that was massively successful for the 49ers. Carolina's getting a couple picks for that, like we could have been doing.
But San Francisco did that because they knew that they can fit him in that offense and do whatever the hell they wanted, and with a chance to win a Super Bowl. They were like mortgage, like we're gonna push all our chips in, and that's what they did, and I respect that.
Oh, I know. Actually, Kareem Hunt would be awesome in that system there.
Here's the thing, though. You gotta be honest with yourself. Every team think they one player away, but they not.
Right.
And the teams that make these big moves and they not one player away, that ends up costing them in the long run.
Wow, Leroy. God, I wish I was saying you're wrong, but that's actually what scares me a little bit about the future of our team.
Right.
No, what really scared him is that you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to hope that we're a player or a guy improving away, but it's going to take more than just one fortunate Christmas gift from Santa.
You need some game changers, and I don't know how they're going to find game changers. You need a couple of game changers on defense. You need you need somebody with speed that can catch. Schwartz is fast as hell. But he could be wide open, and you're scared to throw it.
He can't catch, dog.
Right. Right. And so
the other two is, I'm not trying to pile on with this.
Matt, what you drinking?
But look at the emotion. Look at the emotion that we're showing here as old guys at dinner time here, talking about after the season. Right. We're still emotional and tied to it. And this isn't fabricated just because we're on air and stuff. The emotion, the passion. We talked at length on some of our shows, and I watched you guys in off air of. And again, we used to say F&E, false enthusiasm. It wasn't false enthusiasm when I did a press conference after the game, and I was suicidal because we lost. Okay, it meant it was that discouraging, and there's more important things in football and life. But when I was playing, there really wasn't to me, and that importance of that emotion that I somewhat see lacking on our team, and when we lost some games. Seen the post-game press conferences where it was kind of matter of fact, almost a very mature, calm, professional thing. I think sometimes you have to be calm. You have to it's strategic at times, but you have to have some emotion and some drive and some life or death at stake. And I feel bad for the young kids saying life and death. What happened to Damir Hamlin and was some of the stuff that's been happening for in society, and that with people really getting sick and really getting hurt. Ultimately, this is still just a game. But at the end of the day, to be successful, it has to be more than a game to you when you're out there. It has to mean something. In other words, for you to win and be playing this time of the year.
In other words, somebody during the course of the year, with the way that season played out, needed to lose their shit. Somebody, a coach, a player. It happens. It happens.
Yeah. So I think, and Bernie, you bring up a great point about, we were talking about this earlier, and you were talking about toughness. Emotional toughness, certainly that needs to be there, but physical toughness. And when I see these teams in that are advancing to the playoffs, I saw in the Jacksonville, Tennessee, a game the other night. and is a toughness, is ability to stop the run, ability to make the tackle. And what I'm seeing is, because I think the game is a softer game, and anymore, the defensive backs, I don't think they want to tackle. I think that's you're going, and we're talking about what you're talking. The emotional attachment, the passion to play the game. I think that there's going to be a larger premium on teams that are going to be physically tough versus the teams, well, let's be frank, like the Cleveland Browns, that aren't emotionally and physically tough. And I think that's a big element the Browns missed this year and why they weren't successful.
Frank, I don't want to monopolize all of the talking with us here. I unfortunately, again, agree with you too. And losing to the Saints, a Southern team from Louisiana, in minus 10-degree wind chill. You're up 10-0. Never do they come back on you. Never. Right. And those are the that kind of mindset and attitude. It's almost like an immature little boy who's drawn a line in the sand, but you're not crossing that line because everything here is mine. And you have to have that mindset. And unfortunately, we don't really have that as much. And I noticed this in the game, say 4, 5, 6 years ago. Look how quick the game changed. 4 or 5 years ago, you were the Antichrist if you had a fullback, and most teams didn't even like tight ends. Now we're doing 13 personnel with 3 and 4 tight ends in the game. Yeah. You want a fullback and stuff. And it was an anomaly to have physical, tough teams that had tight ends and fullbacks and ran the ball. But now, there's probably 10 teams in the league, 2 in our division, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, that are tough guys, that are going to be tough guy football. If you don't have that mindset, if you don't match that intensity, if you aren't going to match that physicalness, you will fail in the fourth quarter. We will be available at this time again next year if we don't rectify that toughness issue.
Hey, Bernie, I was going to say, don't apologize, because, man, we just happen to have Frank still awake at this time. It might tell him at this time Frank is a goner, isn't he?
Well, I got to call you out too, man, because you got to let your dog out.
Hey, that's right.
You got to let your dog out too.
But you guys are spot on about this whole thing, because I'm sitting here looking at you guys on this show, and I'm thinking, when I stepped on the field, I said as an individual, I wanted to be the best player on the field, regardless of what happened, win or lose, whether I made plays, whether I was or not. But at the same time, I did not want to let you guys down.
Right.
I did not want to let you guys down. I wanted to go do my part. So I wanted to be able, if we lost the game, at the end of the game, I wanted to be able to say, it wasn't my fault.
Wasn't. We weren't it. Eric Mangini, Bill Belichick line. Don't be it. Don't you be the reason why we lost. By why we screwed up. And people said, weren't you excited when you won? Weren't you excited to score that touchdown? No, I was relieved. Yes. I was relieved that I didn't let you guys down.
Yes.
I was happy, but it was more a relief standpoint.
With that being said, all these guys are taking pay cuts going into the playoffs, and they're all going to be making the same kind of money. And I remember throughout my career during calisthenics or pregame and everything, don't be messing with my money, man. I mean, you guys don't be messing with my money.
That's my money.
And so many times during the time,
mental errors, right? Mental errors.
Yeah. We had a guy stand up and say, "Hey, listen, we got to make the playoffs because I've already spent the money."
Hey, right. And so many times I've had to tell fans, I said, you guys think about all this money that players make, but when they get to the playoffs, it's not as much as you think. They're playing for the love of the game at this point. They're trying to get the big one, and it's not easy to get. And so in order to get that, you have to be willing to go out there and put it on the line for yourself and your brother.
Right, and your brother. And look at And we live it as life and death. And I don't minimize using that phrase with what's happened on the field with Demir this week, and even some of the injuries and some of the ramifications of stuff that we go through from that standpoint too, that that's something that's a massive issue for all of us.
Right.
All righty, guys.
All right. Well,
What's
thank
that
you,
mean, man?
Bernie.
Top
Thanks,
dog, what's that
Bern.
mean?
Well, wait a second, Bernie. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing tonight? You're again in the community, trying to give back, make a difference in people's lives, and we want to thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? I appreciate, you know what? And with some of the stuff that happened with me this past week, whether it's you guys as friends, the awesome fans that we have out there, the love and support that we have for the Cleveland Browns, that the Cleveland Browns fans have for us, that they have for me, it's just been phenomenal and stuff. You know, I'm in the late third quarter, early fourth quarter of my life. Top Dog got mad at me saying he's not in the second half of his life, but football's been so awesome to me. You guys see how much we all love it. It's a core part of our DNA and what resides within us and stuff. But it's like, again, after 40 surgeries, 80 broken bones, 100 concussions, I really believe I've been put in a spot to learn how to help people and heal people. And some people that, you know, I was overly medicated for most of this century, and to be able to figure out a health and wellness wise that's holistic here. I've been trying to help raise money, and that's actually was what I dumbly was trying to do, trying to just raise money because I'm not an employee with the Browns. I thought that would be a way to raise money for my foundations and charities and to help people out. You know, whether it's the community of us ex-NFL players, the community of players, you know, community's at the core of what I do. So right now, kind of making a difference in people's lives, trying to get them feeling healthy and feeling good and making a difference is something I'm committed to. And I'm having it's almost like a responsibility of me to kind of spread that message and help people out. So with New Year's Eve this past week, there was a lot of great moments there. There's a lot of people that are suffering through mental illness, addiction issues, and didn't do too well. Unfortunately, here in Ohio, Northeastern Ohio, like in the country, there's a serious fentanyl overdose death issues going on. Unfortunately, our morgues are filled up by Saturdays on the weekends in suburbs in Northeastern Ohio, and there's some people now I've been trying to help out to get them through the other side of it, like I was, to be able to lead a helpful, productive life.
Hey,
Thanks,
well, we
Bravo.
appreciate you, Bernie, and I'm sure the community appreciates how that you're trying to help them, and so we look forward to you helping and giving back to like you've been doing.
You got it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
You
Bern.
got
We
it,
love
big
you,
dog.
man.
Okay.
All right,
No matter.
love
you
Bern.
too.
You got it.
You
You got
got
it. You got it,
Love
baby.
you.
Next year, baby.
Okay.
Next year. Come on, Brown. Next year,
All right.
baby.
Good show, guys.
Good
Yep.
show, guys.
You go to sleep now.
Take us out.
All right, thank you. Hey, that wraps it up for the.
Frank, you're not on your A game tonight. You're not on your A game.
Hey, so he must have got those mushrooms.
Yeah.
Wait, no, wait. I just got scared now. I'm going to see that forehead the whole rest of the night in my dreams. What the hell was that move? Okay.
Thanks, Browns Nation, for listening to the inaugural season of In the Dog Pound. We appreciate you every week in and week out. And we will pick this show back up in the offseason, probably start again to preview the draft, if not sooner. So thank you to our very, very special guests to wrap up our first year, Bernie Kosar. Thank you, Eric Metcalf. Thank you, Mike Tomczak. Thank you, Leroy Horde. Thank you, Top Dog Hanford Dixon. Frank Stams. I'm out. Thank you, everybody. Browns Nation. Adios.
Go Browns.
God bless you.
Go Brown.